Hey everyone, in today's episode of Chun Up, I'm running on 2 cups of coffee and pure hype.
Bridget, you're the president of jack shit.
Welcome to the show. My name's Christian Buckley. Today is a day that I've been waiting for a very long time. Death Stranding has arrived. I've been looking forward to this game for a very long time. It's probably one of my most anticipated games of the year, if not number one, now that Animal Crossing is gone. But last night, the game dropped. I had it digitally pre-installed on my PS4. Right when the clock hit midnight, I was in. Played for 3 hours, got through the beginning hours of the game. So if you don't want to know anything about how it starts or motivations, maybe watch this after you've played the first couple hours. If you don't care, that's cool. But I just want to give that courtesy out there because I was media blackout ever since E3 this year. Since then, I haven't looked at anything with Death Stranding, and it's been an experience. I'm very much on board with this game. I'm loving my time with it so far. And a lot of that comes down to the way they present the world. So that's what we're talking about today. One of my favorite ways to introduce an audience to a sci-fi world, similar to Star Wars, is just throw you right into the fire. And Death Stranding does that beautifully. Not only is the game gorgeous and like that Decima engine is flexing, you know, I thought it looked good in Horizon. It looks incredible here. I'm playing on a PS4 Pro. These environments, amazing. Really, like the introduction to the game when they showed these stills of the environments, they looked like legitimate pictures of like Iceland or something because it just looks so good. So seeing this world, seeing it in its natural state post the Death Stranding catastrophe, it's unique, it's visually interesting despite just being lots of grayscale with splashes of color here and there. It's a visually interesting world, and one of my favorite things so far, 3 hours in, is that they don't really talk at you about why it's this way. They just kind of exist there. They live in this world, the world feels lived in, there's relationships between them, among factions, the way the world exists and how people exist in it. And at the center of all of it is Sam Porter Bridges, played by Norman Reedus, one of the coolest guys ever, honestly. Big fan of him, loving his character so far. There is one instance of being talked at the point I'm in so far, where Dead Man, played by Guillermo del Toro, physically at least, kind of talks to Sam about why he's special, how he exists in this world, and kind of contextualizing the gameplay mechanic of respawning in the lore of the world. But that's, for me at least, the extent of, hey, here's a thing, X, Y, and Z about it, this is why it works. Everything else is just kind of given to us through characters talking to each other, being like, this is how it is, and kind of explaining, sure, the situation of it, but it's not really fleshed out yet. It's fleshed out by you exploring this world and meeting people and forming these connections or strands, as the game has been referring to them as. But I really do believe that so far, a lot of the way the world exists and all of this ridiculous terminology is portrayed well through the story, through being shown, not told. There's one instance at the beginning, at the very introduction of the game, where Fragile, played by Leah Saido, basically run over by Sam. You freak out, like, what just happened? Was she really there? Then we see her in a cave with him while one of the creatures, the BTs, is kind of stalking them. They have an interaction after. She offers a job to Sam. He says nah. She disappears, and you're kind of questioning. You're like, does she have a power? Can she teleport? What just happened? Was she real? Later on, when you meet Dead Man, Guillermo del Toro, he has an interaction with Sam. He goes to inform Sam about a few things, reaches out for him. Sam pulls away, and then Guillermo's like, well, I know you don't like being touched, but I'm not really here. Then he vanishes because he's a chirogram. Immediately, I'm like, oh, we saw that earlier. We saw Fragile disappear because she was a chirogram. There's so many things like that in the game, from my experience so far, that are just dished out at a good pace. One of my worries right now is that we're going to reach a point where this balance of story progression and gameplay and traversal through the world, it's going to get too much in one direction. I haven't done a ton of exploration through the world so far. Right now, at 3 hours in, I'd probably say 60-40 as far as cutscenes to gameplay goes. But going through this world is a treat. The most bare bones way I can kind of convey how I feel about traversal so far is Metal Gear Solid 5 meets Breath of the Wild, because the environment is a huge factor in the way that you travel, because you are this delivery man. Just general terrain is going to impact significantly how you move through the world. So I appreciate that aspect of it. It's not for everybody for sure, just like how a lot of people didn't like mechanics in Breath of the Wild. But the control of Sam, the tactical aspects of planning out exactly how you move through the world, which ways you travel through the world, what equipment you take, is very, very, very Metal Gear Solid 5. And again, if you've watched this show before, or anything on JoyClicks, I enjoyed Metal Gear Solid 5. I thought it was great for what it was. It felt really good to play. And Death Stranding just kind of takes the best aspects of that and does something unique with it at the same time. One of the main themes about the game so far, though, is reconnecting the world, forming bonds with people. And it's just interesting to look at because, sure, in-game, in the narrative, that's what we're doing. From a more meta perspective, there's online infrastructure built into Death Stranding for you to sort of connect to other people, assist other people, leave messages for other people, and in turn, get more clout, I guess, from them based on how much you put in to interacting with them through this infrastructure. And then from an even further step back, this right now, this is like what Hideo wanted, I guess, because I'm talking to all of you about Death Stranding. You're listening to me talk about Death Stranding. That's forming a connection there. So I feel like a lot of this game, a lot of the discourse around it is going to be kind of funny from a meta-narrative perspective because the game is about connections, about talking with each other. About 2 hours before I recorded this, I grabbed lunch with my brother. He's in the same spot as me. He got the game at midnight, played for about 3 hours. We talked for a full hour about what we thought of the game so far, just how interesting it is, how the world feels, and that was a great conversation. I had a really good time talking about the game with him. I can't wait to talk to him more about it because it's just so unique and it's very much at its core what Hideo meant when he said it's a Strand game, because I can't really compare it to many other things at this point. Sure, there's inspirations, but it is inherently unique by mixing them all together and providing this new take on an open world. And I can't wait to see more of it. I hope it gets weird. I hope it gets crazy with its creature design. I hope I feel this way about it throughout the entire game, because I have seen the hour count from some people saying upwards of 70 hours. So if they can manage to keep me this locked in throughout the entirety of a 70-hour playthrough potentially, it's going to be an easy go-to discussion for me. That's going to wrap it up for this week's episode, though. I hope you enjoyed. I hope if you're playing Death Stranding, you are enjoying it. Maybe you can see me pop up in your world. Maybe I'll leave a ladder behind or something to help you all out. Just like you helped me out by watching the video, giving me likes, giving me subscribes, sharing it around. Because I really don't want to connect it to Death Stranding and be that guy where it's like, oh, it's so cool, it connects with everything. But there's a literal like button in this game, okay? If you did enjoy this show, liking it would be nice. Form a strand with me doing that. If you want to go beyond that, though, we do have a Patreon. Patreon.com/joyclicks is where you can go to learn more about myself, my friends that work on the channel with me, and you can see numerous options to help support us continue making content like this as we progress into the new year. But just you stopping by, talking about Death Stranding with me, talking about anything with me every week is a blast, because I love making the show, love talking to all of you. So I hope you have a good week, and remember that tomorrow is in your hands. Since last week's recording, I did finish Fire Emblem, and I finally started Dragon Quest XI. I don't know how deep I'm going to be able to get into that, or the stretches of time I can commit to it because of Death Stranding. But man, that's just a good, jolly game, you know? It's such good vibes. I was walking into work today, and it was snowing for the first time of the season. Through on last Christmas. That's the vibe you get from Dragon Quest. So, It's a comfortable thing. I'm glad I can fall back to it, but that's gonna do it. Have a nice week.
Okay.